Hello Deep Value community, thank you for joining me. Today's video we're going to talk about financial ratios. Specifically, a couple of financial ratios that you should look out for to help you stay out of trouble. So if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, because this is our value investing journey, so you can get my next video installment. Let's get started. So the point of ratios is really just to point you in the correct direction. They don't solve all the problems and they require some interpretation. Now, I believe that the best place to start your investment always comes to the balance sheet. If you do not understand how the balance sheet of the company is set up, if you do not understand its financial strength and its weaknesses, then you can't build a thesis. You need to understand what its fiscal position looks like, how much debt it has, how much cash it has, what its upcoming maturities are. So let's get started. So this is the cash ratio. It's simply taking cash and cash equivalents and dividing it by current liabilities. Now, the reason I put that below 0.5 as bad or above 2 as bad is because this takes quite a lot of nuance. A company, an asset-light company, can run with little cash. So for example, if the business has a significant amount of revenue coming each month or each day, and it's quite predictable in terms of that cash coming in, such as, let's say, a subscription business model or a SaaS business model or software as a service, that can run with less cash than a business that's very capital intensive and very cyclical. Now, as with any of these ratios I'm going to talk about, it's not so important to take it at the absolute ratio, whether 0.5 is bad or above 2 is bad, but more compare it to its peers. How does it compare and contrast with the peers? So off the top of my head, I haven't looked to see Facebook, but I would be willing to estimate that Facebook has quite a large cash ratio. Now, there could be the argument that Facebook needs as much cash to be able to withstand a global contraction as we're going through at this moment. I do not believe that to be the case. I believe that it has excess free cash flow and excess cash. I should repeat myself. But I do see the argument that it needs a significant amount of cash on the balance sheet. So let's move on. Another one that's very good is current assets divided by current liabilities. This is the current ratio. So again, this requires a bit of interpretation, because in the case of many businesses, you want current assets to be higher than current liabilities. So you want a higher number than 1. But not all businesses should be like this. So for example, I've looked here and I've taken Costco, just a company that came to the top of my mind, and I look at Costco and it has current assets of 23 billion. And I've gone and I've just squeezed to the top here the current assets. You got 23 billion, and you got current liabilities less than current assets. Now, Costco is just so predictable, that business model. People come in and they do their shopping, and you can very much predict the amount of cash coming in. So that business actually runs better with less cash on its balance sheet. So as you can see, in the case of Costco, the current liabilities are smaller than the current assets. That means that the total current ratio is actually less than 1. And there are literally ratios for everything. But in this video, I believe it's just important to go over the ones that matter to you as an investor. There are many that help you as an accountant, but I believe that you come to this video as an investor. So I'm just focused on the ones that really make a difference here. So I'm going to go through 2 now that I believe really help you get out of trouble. Number 1, day sales outstanding. So this you just take on the balance sheet. You just look at accounts receivables and you divide that by annual sales over 365, and that just gives you a number. And the point is that you want to see how this number progresses over a period of years. So here in this example, I've looked at a company that used to be invested. I'm no longer invested, but this was the numbers for Valiant when it was called Valiant, but it's now called Bosch Holdings. But here you can see that from 2010 all the way to 2017, the day sales outstanding kept on trending up. So this meant that they were booking in revenue that didn't actually transgress or didn't actually translate into cash at the bottom. So this would have been something that would have given some people some yellow flags. Now, I didn't invest in this period, I invested much later, but the point of the story is that I know this company quite well, so you could have just told that Valiant was not really being able to monetize its receivables. So this is something to look out for. Day sales outstanding. I'll repeat, this is not necessarily on an absolute number, but you want to see how it trends over a period of several years. Another one that is that I find quite useful is days payable outstanding. This is very similar. The formula is slightly different. You're just looking at accounts payable divided by cost of sales, which can be either the cost of goods sold or cost of sales, divided by the number of days. Let's say if it was at the cost of goods sold for a year, you divide by 365. As before, I think it's quite helpful to find an example. So this is an example of a company. I'm not going to say the name because I know somebody that's invested in this company, but you can see here that the days payable outstanding continues to increase over time. That tells you one or two things. It could be the argument, which the person that is invested claims, could be the argument that this company's position with its suppliers is so strong that they can delay paying out. That could be one argument. The other argument is that they basically are trying to delay paying because they need to hold on to cash to go towards other stuff. So I believe that practice makes profits. So what I mean by that is that you gotta practice this a lot. This is not to just look at one formula and believe that you understand the company. Each formula needs to be compared with a couple of other formulas, so not to take it in isolation, and you have to compare with its peers. But the best solution of all is you just keep going at this day in, day out, and over time you build a database of what worked, what didn't, so little and often. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hope you subscribe. Goodbye.